Hello, friends of the YouTubes. It is I, Duhad. I am making a quick update video, and for the time being, for the start of this video, I'm putting up this in the background. There's a reason for it. That is that we are doing new Let's Read. We've recorded 3 episodes of it already. Technically, it's actually a continuation of something we did during the New Year's event, but we weren't able to do Let's Roleplay this week because we were missing some players. So me, Belil, and Winter decided to just do a Let's Read instead, and that's it. This is the one. So I'm gonna pull that down. I'm gonna blow that up because I don't like that. But this is more relevant than that. So right. So the other update I wanted to do was to quickly reassure people that I have not updated the Patreon the Patreon role-playing book that I'm working on yet, because I've decided I'm going to update that on the 15th of each month, not at the beginning of the month. The reason for that is that I uploaded on my birthday, April 15th, last month, and I wanted more than 2 weeks to work on it because even though it's nearing the end of the sort of beta phase, or at least the alpha phase, I do want to make sure that there is substantial, new features for people to play with. Like, there's already new qualities and some new rules and new resources. No, the resource system I haven't updated yet, but I'm planning on doing that before the next release. There's a new race. It's a pretty substantial. It'll be a substantial update. It's already pretty good, but I want to, really give you something nice. The other thing I want to talk about with that is that, as I said, it's nearing the end of the alpha stage, and so coming up soon, I will stop largely updating the game with new content, just because it's nearing the point where the actual content, like the rules and stuff, are nearing kind of like the place where I want them to be, save for some playtesting and making sure it all goes right. We are going to do a Let's Roleplay of this system at some point coming up soon. But what I wanted to say about that was specifically that when I am done updating the role-playing book, at least aside from smaller patches and tweaks and some adding more fluff and stuff, I actually have a plan. Because most of the stuff that happens after that point is going to be me and Belil working on laying it out, adding a lot of art, and basically getting it ready for actual sale as a nice, high-quality PDF, and hopefully a limited softcover printing. But you guys are gonna get an actual proper role-playing game book that will be hopefully on the market for very little. $1 a month, yeah. So anyway, what I was going to say was, even though that's coming up, I don't want you to think that that's the end of new content, and you're subscribing, you want to see this game as it develops and stuff. It's like, oh, well, once it's over, why keep up, aside from some small content patches? That doesn't seem like very much at all. Don't worry. I know this is going to sound bad. It sounds a little bit like I'm like a DLC thing, like doing on-disc DLC, but I actually have plans for a supplement book specifically dealing with the Frontier. And the reason I'm making a supplement book as opposed to adding that all to the main game is that it's going to be very different. It's going to have new rules. It's going to have a lot of new races, a ton of new fluff. The tone of it is going to be darker and a little bit more high adventure than crime, So I don't feel like it should be in the core game, just because people playing with it, it'll feel substantially different, and I don't think that putting all of that in the core game would make sense, because it would. I'd basically have to write an entirely different section just for it, just to really say hey, these races and these features and stuff, like the hive minds and the living ships and the horrible monsters and all these, like all that other stuff, that doesn't exist in the same part of the universe that the main game takes place in, so don't it doesn't all go together. So yeah, so I'm going to be working on that once I'm 100% happy with basically all the mechanics and everything working for the main game. And like with the main game, I will also be adding that to the Patreon and making that an update thing. Like that'll be something that that will be updated in the same way that this one was. Obviously, it will start much rougher than Low Gravity, because I worked on Low Gravity for months before putting it up. You'll be getting like the super alpha, like Cliff Notes version of this book as I'm writing it. Like the skeleton of the book as I like build the skeleton and then put meat on it. Like you're getting the pre-skeleton of that book when I get to it. I might also do a third book, or incorporate into the second book stuff about playing games in the Federation, which would be like high sci-fi, like future, like really clean, super future sci-fi, maybe a little dystopian. So very different than the other two settings. But I have a lot of plans for this universe. It is the one that me and Belil are working on a comic for. So, I have a massive like universe page, like universe show Bible book thing that I've written, that I'm drawing on for this game, for the supplements, for all that stuff. And once I'm done with that, this is me kind of speculating a little bit. Like once I'm done with those things, if and when I ever do, the next thing I'm going to be working on is adapting Low Gravity to a fantasy setting, making kind of like the Unisystem does with All Flesh Must Be Eaten being zombies and Terra Primate being apes. I'll make a second core book. Same basic rules, but like some new content, like a lot of like swordplay will be increased. There'll be naval combat replacing ship combat. I have a naval architect friend who I'm going to be going to a lot because he's really into maritime history. So yeah, it'll be a fairly substantial thing. It'll be a fairly substantially different game, even though it has the same mechanics. Again, I haven't really planned that one out. I need to like write an entire setting for it because I don't want to use generic fantasy settings. The same way that Low Grav is hopefully a bit different than generic sci-fi. But I want to make a fantasy version as well with like magic rules and ships and all sorts of fun things like that. And way in the future, I want to finish this trilogy of core books by also making like a modern setting or a possibly an post-apocalyptic setting, but something where you could use it for doing games in the modern day and possibly also for doing like a Mad Max kind of thing, because I fucking love post-apocalyptic Mad Max stuff. So it might actually be that, and then like a supplement for playing just straight modern. But either way, the rules will work for a more grounded, more modern setting than either the Low Gravity, which is obviously high sci-fi, and this other book, which will probably be high-ish fantasy. Like, I don't want to do low fantasy just because doing low fantasy is easy. No, it's not easy. Low fantasy I actually really like. I shouldn't say it's easy. What I mean is, as far as mechanics go, doing a low fantasy setting is as easy as taking a high fantasy setting, like rule set, and then just taking out all the magic and stuff like that. Like it's low fantasy is paring down so much from high fantasy that if I again, like the idea I want to go with these is that it's sort of a unisystem thing where there's a setting, there's like, oh god, my glasses are askew. There's a setting, there's like a tone that I intend for these books, but they should also hopefully be able to be used as the basis for generic games for any sort of sci-fi game. Like I imagine you could probably make a Dune game out of Low Gravity. You could make a Star Wars game with a little tweaking out of Low Gravity. Again, it's a game with a very specific setting in mind, but I'm hoping that the rules are generic enough that like you can do any sort of setting a role-playing game thing with it without too much trouble. It's my hope. That's more or less it. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I should add. We're coming up on the mid-season finale of Major 2. Once we reach the end of that part of Major 2, Bleal has requested a break because she intends Major 2 to be a very long campaign. So she wants this first part that we've been doing is one half, and then there'll be a break, and then there'll be a second half. Same character, same story, just picking up directly where we left off. In between that, I actually might run Low Gravity. Like, we were originally going to run Winter's Pathfinder game there, but obviously Skullgirls 2 ended before that happened, so he took over from there. Also, Morath, I almost used his actual name, which I've done so many times, I don't know why I'm still hiding it, but Morath actually might run something there, like Exalted or something. So maybe not Low Gravity immediately, but Low Gravity is coming. Major 2 is ending. Pathfinder is going to get a little less ridiculous, hopefully. I mean, I like it, but I think it's going to get a little bit less silly. And then Morath is doing a game. Yeah, it's we really like this new Let's Read. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to list down everything in one big video just so that it's all out. Yeah, we're really enjoying this new Let's Read. We're probably going to finish it because it's we're gonna probably finish the trilogy of stories because they're really short. And we're not giving up on Silver Haze. We're not stopping Silver Haze for this. We only did this one because we didn't have Meyer for Silver Haze, and he's been really pushing for us to do more Silver Haze, which we just haven't had the time for. But I didn't want to do Silver Haze without him, so we did this other story. It's not replacing Silver Haze, but it's fun. It's hilarious. We're probably going to finish it just because it's so short and we can. I mean, we did 3 videos, and we're already into the second story. It'll be fun. You guys are gonna enjoy it. That I think is basically it. I have some tentative plans for maybe also starting a Let's Play or doing a slightly more work-intensive thing with a lot more a little editing and music and all that. There's a project I'm kind of toying with, but I don't know if I'll have the time for it, especially while I'm also writing Low Gravity and writing fiction for a game made by a friend of mine, which I'll show later, and also this comic which me and Bleal are going to be making, and it's crazy. It's in the same setting as Low Gravity, and it's I've scripted a lot of it already, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Yeah, it's probably also gonna take a couple of years to write and draw all of, but web comics. What are you gonna do? Yeah. You know what? Last thing. I'll just throw this out there. A quick shout out to The Adventure Zone. I've just started watching that. It's not my favorite role-playing show on the internet. I know it's very popular. I like it. It's good. It's not my favorite, but it's pretty good. If you like Let's Roleplay, especially the wackier, goofier elements of Let's Roleplay, you'll probably really like The Adventure Zone. It's very funny. It's very silly and funny and ridiculous. Not that they need a shout out from me, but I believe in credit where it's due. So, hey. All right, see you guys next time, and I'll put up the Let's Reads soon. Probably put one up today, this evening, and wait for the 15th for the update to Low Gravity. Hopefully it'll be one of the last core book updates, and then the game will be more or less in a playable state for anyone who wants to play it. I mean, it's already. I think it's playable right now. It's just it could be better. It's not good enough for me yet. I want to make it better, but it's playable. It's definitely playable. All right, sorry.